Hey, everybody. Today we have for you podcast number 104. Today's podcast is titled, Good Leaders Are Great Followers. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. We are Dr. Pete and Sandy Lombardi, and this is the Limitless Life Network podcast where we flesh out the limitations that are preventing you from reaching your goals and living the life you are called to lead. And we always want to start off the podcast with
gratitude and thank you. So we appreciate all of you for your feedback each week. And we were just reflecting on there's so many people that we have no idea that are listening. And that's powerful, but it's also awesome when you let us know. So thank you for your feedback.
Yes, for sure. Last week, I received a text message from one of our listeners, Dr. Chris Brown, with 3 bullet points from listening to the podcast. And I didn't understand what his third bullet point meant. I had to get clarification. But anyway, it's great to get that kind of feedback. We love the fact that you are sharing this with friends and family and those that you care about. So thank you. Like, follow, subscribe, share. We appreciate all of that. So let's get on with the show. We've got a good one today. I think this one is really good. So our backstory is what? What's our backstory today?
Well, I think it was off of your reading. We've had so much this week. We had a weekend of guest speakers at our church and from the United Kingdom. They were excellent. Lots of inspiring thoughts from that. And then you were reading in Luke about Zechariah. And I think that's really where our leader topic came from.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know that story, I've read it before, and whenever you read something a second or a third time, you catch something a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. And that's because you change as the reader. And I think that's important for people to remember, is that you're growing, and that reading things over and over again, you'll catch new meanings, and you can always grab a little bit more. You can always go a little bit deeper. Mm-hmm. So let's start with point number 1.
Okay, point number 1, are you limited by your but?
Okay, so I could say yes and be done with this one, but there's a but right there. This comes from the story of Zechariah and Luke, and it's in the first chapter, I believe, of Luke. And it's talking about how, this is basically how John comes about, John the Baptist. Mm-hmm. And Zechariah was chosen by lots, by basically drawing straws, to go into the temple that day to light the incense as a elder or a priest, I guess, at that time. Mm-hmm. And he went into the temple and he sees Gabriel there, this angel, and he's scared. He's taken back. And Gabriel basically tells him, don't be afraid. I am sent because you have been so good, and I'm here to bless you and your wife and let you know that you're going to have a child. Mm-hmm. And he goes on about who this child is going to be and the purpose of this child and how important this child is. And Zechariah says to the angel, but my wife and I are old, mm-hmm. and she has been barren all these years. And Gabriel reaffirms that he is coming as a messenger from God, as an angel of God, and that this will be so, but because, again, a but comes in here, but because of your lack of faith, and he basically is not believing that this is true, but because of your lack of faith, you will not be able to speak. Mm-hmm. And that is when he leaves the temple, he can no longer speak until the day that John is to be named.
Right.
And Elizabeth says the baby in front of all of her neighbors, and that the baby's name will be John, but nobody in their family has the name John, and that's just traditionally not what is done in that culture. So they can't believe it, so they look to the father of the child, Zechariah, and he writes down on a tablet, his name is John, and immediately he could speak again.
Mm-hmm.
His ability to speak is restored. And that message there tells me that when we act out in faith, we are blessed. And when we have doubt, our blessings are sometimes withheld.
Mm-hmm. And I think like Zechariah's response was, how can I be sure?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he was doubting God's ability. And because Pete and I were talking this out, like, do we really doubt that God could withhold the blessing, or there's anything that's not possible for him to do for us? And the answer is no. And I think for most of us, the answer is no there. We believe God can do it. Mm-hmm. But the doubt comes in maybe in the messenger. Like, do I believe the messenger? Or do I believe I'm worthy? Like the doubt comes in on our side of the equation is what we were kind of talking out when we were discussing this.
Mm-hmm. I think also that we have a bit of skepticism. Mm-hmm. We have a bit of a cynical nature that is part of our survival mechanism built into us. Because as a years and years and years ago, I mean, centuries ago, we really depended on the tribal mentality to survive. We needed others' help, right? Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, you couldn't bring bad intel back to everybody else, or they would lose faith in you, right? So what happens is that you tend to be a bit cynical about things as a protective mechanism to not bring bad information or bad anything back to the group, because you don't want to be kicked out of the group, mm-hmm. right? You want to be trusted. You want to be relied upon, reliable.
Right.
So go ahead.
Well, as we were talking this out before we started recording, I said, this makes me think of the story of the spies. So the 12 spies they're sent out to assess the land of Canaan, the promised land. What does it look like? What food is there? What type of people are there? Is it fortified? And so this 12, one from each of the 12 tribes goes out, and they come back with the report that, there's grapes that they're huge. We can hardly carry a thing of grapes, and there's flowing with milk and honey. And then there's the but. Right. But there's these huge giants, and they're going to defeat us. And then, so there was all this skepticism and doubt, mm-hmm. except for Caleb. And so, he was filled with anticipation and belief that they could overcome, and that mm-hmm. they needed to take this promised land. And so that's another story of the but I think also a point that I was making to Pete is like, I feel like now more than ever, like Caleb was the minority. He came back with this enthusiasm, like, yes, we can do this, where the majority of the spies came back defeated, thinking, well, we saw this wonderful stuff, but we believe the but. And I feel like today more than ever, you need to think of the minorities chant more than the majority. I feel like we need to be looking at that minority voice, and the one that's challenging and wanting to step up and believing that they can overcome.
Yeah, I don't think that you necessarily. Well, I love what you're saying about that, and it's not that we seek the minority. I think we seek the wisdom. I think we seek things that are truthful. Like, does this word really make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, it's like, here's proof. Like, he came back with these massive grapes. The soil is fertile. Like, we saw this. This is proof right here, right? Like, how much evidence do you really need, mm-hmm. right? There's at some point you have to take some bit of a risk,
right?
And if you follow the majority always is going to want to
play it safe,
stay the same. Mm-hmm. They don't want change. Most people, as a majority, want to keep things exactly the same. They want to just do it like it's always been done. And they always look to the past as like, this is how it's always been done. So we've got to keep it this way. Right. And I'm, we're going to get into this a little bit more with some of the other concepts here, but I think that this is such a limitation, is that we limit our potential and possibilities for growth and for just delivering a bigger and stronger message to the world, because we have this but that stops us in our tracks and paralyzes us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And that does kind of lead us into point two, making room.
yeah. This, we were in church on Sunday, and we were singing a worship song, and it was talking about making room. I will make room for you to do whatever you want to. And it talks about, the traditions, the crowns, like shake up the ground of all those things, like break that down, the traditions, the crowns, the burdens, the lies, the doubts, and even the religion, which that's a really important one. We're going to dig into that a little bit. But this makes me think of like emptying the trash on your computer.
Right.
Like before we start the podcast, we always do a pre-recording now, because we've sent out a couple of podcasts that the recording didn't work out really well. So we do a quick pre-record for 10, 15 seconds. I'd say a few jokes. My wife laughs on it. And we just make sure our sound sounds good. And then I delete it. And if I don't empty the trash, then the operating system won't work, because it'll use up all of our memory. So the idea of making more room is that you've got to get things out of your life and like be done with them. Not just like say, oh, I'll push that down a little bit for now, but like you literally have to be delivered from it. Like get rid of it once and for all. Take out the trash.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's the traditions, the crowns, the burdens, the lies, the doubts, the fears, and the religion. You want to dig down into that religion one a little bit?
We just got talking like the difference between religion and an actual like faith relationship. And it can't be compartmentalized. Like religion can be just full of structure and tradition. And someone had said to me recently, like, I think your role in helping this person is your religious side. And it made me think a bit. And it made me realize like they were looking at it like it was compartmentalized, like, and it was almost, I don't want to be religious. Like that to me is almost an insult. Like, it's not genuine. It's not it's not living to me. Like a religion isn't necessarily full of life. Like, living out your faith, walking it daily, acting it out, speaking it out. That's to me, walking in faith. And that's not what I would define as religion, I guess. So it's all encompassing.
Yeah. Religion is something that I see as created by man.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
Whereas, your faith is a relationship between you and your creator. And if we can just, get rid of this man-made stuff that has all these limits and things that are just preventing you from, they're distractions. They really become huge distractions in the relationship that we are to develop over our lifetime, so that God can make more of us, right? Like he wants this connection because he wants to work through you to be this instrument. Right. And you can deliver so much more. I can deliver more. My wife can deliver so much more. Our marriage can be so much more fruitful if we get rid of the traditions of it and really focus on the relationship of it. Right.
Yeah, true.
So that's making room, right? Get rid of these things that are just, just man-made stuff, crowns, like awards and accolades. Like, really, what does that get you, right?
Right. And then think about, what are we making room for? Like, is it different relationships? Is it time with family? Is it a new occupation? Like what intentionally do you want to make room for, but you need to get rid of some other stuff so
Right.
that there is room for it.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. Okay, so that brings us to point number 3, which is, are you holding back because of who is listening or watching? So are you holding back because of who is listening or watching? What do you think, Sandy?
Um, it, we were discussing like it can be for us or myself when I know some people are listening to the podcast. For instance, I might not want to share something that's too personal or has a history to it. And I think maybe all of you can relate to that in some way. Like, are you holding back in a certain area of your life because of what those closest to you might think of
Mm.
that, or they know you too well, or they know who you used to be.
Mm.
So just something to think about. Like, are there things that are almost like this tether that just hold you back from taking that step that you're ready to take, but you might be limiting it because of others around you?
Yeah. I was reading in Luke this morning about Jesus and how he was in his hometown.
Mm,
And nobody, at first he read from Isaiah and everybody loved it. But then he said that, you
sorry.
people aren't going to listen to me.
Criticize, yeah.
And he started to criticize them, and they didn't love him, and they wanted to kick him out. They ran him out of town. And
Hmm.
he basically said, you can't be a prophet in your own town. And that is so true, because of, they knew you when, they knew who
Hmm.
you used to be, right? And they have an idea of who you should be going forward,
Hmm.
right? They want you to fit in this perfect little place, and the cog of this thing that they're holding on to is like what they think your life should look like. And they don't spend much time thinking about it, right? They don't spend much time planning about it, but they just have this preconceived idea of who you were and who you should be from now on, because that's who you always were,
Yeah.
right? They can't understand that we all grow and we all change, and we don't necessarily consciously do it either, but we tend to pigeonhole people. And the whole point of this is that, don't hold back from becoming what God wants you to become.
Hmm.
Like, allow that to happen organically, naturally, authentically, because it's going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
It's going to really knock your socks off as to how great his plans are for you. They're much greater than what you think.
Hmm.
They really are.
I think of this with our own children, that
Hmm.
there's times where they, I think, filter ad- their desires and their aspirations through a filter of what would mom and dad, what would they think of this, and would this be something they would approve of? And
Hmm.
that's not what we want at all. Like, we want them really reaching for what they feel God has out in front of them. And so I think any parent really wants that, but I think or it's like this below level thing that's going on. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I I think about that too with kids, because kids, they really want their parents' approval for
Mm-hmm.
things, but at the same time, what have they seen? They're going to somewhat mimic what they've seen growing up. So it's not uncommon that if you were a plumber, that your kid may be interested in the plumbing field, or maybe instead of plumbing, they'll go to electrical, but something in the trades,
Yeah.
right? But if you're a doctor, your kid's going to probably be thinking something in the field of something with, the healthcare industry. If you're a lawyer, your kid may think, well, geez, maybe I should go into law school or look into legal stuff, because that's what they've seen and that's what they know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not uncommon that happens. But the whole point here is, we can't be so self-conscious and so fearful of judgment, because, yeah, people are going to judge you regardless. They're going to judge you of what little you do or what great things that you do.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to listen. You have to listen to what God is telling you to do.
All right.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Which is kind of it. Point number 4 is authentic versus rehearsed. So that goes, ties into authentic.
Yeah. This really struck me, because I walked into our church on Sunday, and I was talking with a couple of people as soon as I got in the door, and I look over out of the corner of my eye, and I see our pastor getting ready to turn the corner and leave a conversation and walk in to get ready for church, because it's about to start. and he sees me out of the corner of his eye, and I see him out of the corner of my eye, and he stops everything and turns with this great big smile on his face and steps right toward me. And I turn and smile, and we greeted each other. And he had such a genuine love and authentic, I guess, just
Reception.
reception, but a gratefulness that I was there, that I was going to partake in that Sunday worship with our church family. And you can't fake that. It was nothing fake about it. You can tell the difference between somebody that's saying something in a canned way, very polished, or they've thought about it, or somebody that's truly authentic. And it was truly authentic. And I've really never had a disingenuine meeting with him. And I think that's super special. And then we listened to this guest pastor preach, and I will say that this message was polished, and it was rehearsed, and it was a PowerPoint, and there were all these very nice points that were made, and I mean, there was a lot to be gained from it, and I'm not being critical of it, but there's a big difference between something that is spirit-filled and spirit-led and something that's authentic versus something that has been rehearsed and repeated over and over again. And I know that this pastor added her own authentic personal stories to it that made it more impactful. But in our own lives, it's not time to be rehearsing things and trying to pick the best words, but you really need to just tap into yourself and who you are and let it flow. Just relax, and back to the other one. Don't hold back. Back to point number 3. Don't hold back. Let your best self come through, because it's beautiful. And there's nothing like authenticity. So that's really point number 4. Don't hold back. Don't rehearse things. Let it rip from the inside, okay? With love and compassion and kindness and grace, and it's going to be great.
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
And our last point was leave a big footprint.
And so I want to tell a story about this, because this is going to lead into it. I've been a hunter for a long time. I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm approaching almost 40 years of hunting, which is wild to me, to think that I've been doing something that long. And one of the places that I hunt is in the big woods of the Adirondacks. And the strategy that I've used up there has been to travel around with snow and look for a big track. And you can tell a lot about a deer by their track. And there's a way to figure out how big the deer is and whether it's a mature animal or not based on where the track is positioned. But basically, the bigger the track, the bigger the animal. And it's the big tracks are worth pursuing. And if I find a big track, I will spend all day until it gets dark to see if I can catch up with the animal. So I will pursue it relentlessly. And if I have the opportunity, I'll even go back the next day and try to follow that deer. I'll try to pick the track up again and continue to follow it. So why don't you carry on now after I've started the lead in here? So I'll continue with this. So the concept here is to leave a big footprint. And too many times I think we are so ready to just take a back seat to say, look at all these great things that these people did before us, and we stand on the shoulder of giants. We've heard that saying before. That's great, but who's gonna, their tracks, their footprints, those big footprints that they left are in the sand, and the water is washing them away. And eventually, as time goes on, people will forget about those people. People are going to stop reading books. People are going to stop seeing their information, and it's going to go to something else. So who's going to leave the next tracks to be followed? I mean, that's one of the things that I believe that this podcast is doing right now is we're laying down tracks. And I don't know who's following. I think it's great that we have some people following. But I'm not, whether we do this or don't do this is not based on who's following us. It's based on that we're trying to deliver a message that is a bit different than what the culture teaches, but it's something that we believe adds so much value to your life, but it's really a greater calling beyond just ourselves. And we want you to have that same confidence and the same courageousness to go out and leave big footprints for those that come after us to follow. So God has chosen you to leave big, fresh tracks for others to follow. So it's really for you to have this purpose that you leave footprints worth following.
That ties it really to our whole leadership title for today. If a strong leader is going to leave big footprints and a trail that is worth following. So I think all the points you shared were excellent in that.
Yeah. And I mean, the title is Good Leaders Are Great Followers. We're great followers of the greatest leader. That's really what that title comes from, right? If I'm following, Jesus said, follow me. Well, I'm trying to follow him to the best of my ability to track him right now, right? And then as we do that, we're supposed to go out and make disciples, right? To share the gospel, to share the love of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And that's really the purpose of this podcast, is if you can get that point in your life, now all of a sudden you're taking away limitations. You are so limited by this earth, by what's on this planet right now. And you can fill your time and you can make room for all this stuff that there is here, all the material things, all the entertainment that's available. You can fill your life with all that stuff, or you can make room for something of greater purpose and something that is eternal. And it's really up to you to follow the greatest leader that ever walked the planet. Don't follow. And it's not, you can follow us. We'll lead you to him, right? Yeah. But that's it. Like, we're only doing this because of him, right? That's the footprint we're following. Those are the tracks that were left for us. So you too can leave big footprints that are never forgotten.
Awesome.
All right. So that's a wrap on this week's edition of your weekly Limitless Life Network podcast. Tune in each and every week to stay connected, be inspired, and keep moving toward your best life by stripping away your limitations. And we will see you back next week.
We appreciate each and every one of you.